All right, we're live. Hey, so what you're about to watch is a phone call that took place just a few minutes ago. It's about a 40-minute phone call. I wasn't really set up to record the phone call, so but my family's walking through, people are coming through the house. Um, there was a message that was sent to me via Facebook about a woman that was looking for some sort of investigative reporter, someone to tell a story, someone to get her story out. And people started tagging me in it. Friends of mine started tagging me in it. So over the last few days, I've been communicating with someone via Facebook Messenger, and we set up a time. We set up really just a random time today. This morning, she was like, "I have time to talk to you today." I had no idea what the conversation was going to be about. I had no idea of the backstory. I had done no research. I have done no looking into this. This is simply a phone call that I took today, or I called her, but it was via social media chat that we were talking. And I don't know necessarily what I think of the story. There are some factors that point to different things in the story, but nevertheless, I will allow people to share their story. I'm going to keep in contact with her, and before anybody gets all crazy, she did not know she was being recorded for the majority of the conversation. At the end of the conversation, I tell her, we have a couple of options, and I let her know that I've recorded this conversation. She then goes on to say that I can use this recording no matter what. And so, before anybody gets all crazy about that, so she did know she was being recorded by the end of the conversation. Maybe you've been involved in a domestic situation. Maybe someone that's been involved in a domestic violence situation. This kind of focuses around a military man who is involved in a domestic situation, and it's not necessarily the conversation in which a lot of people are going to find very popular, because I'm not this conversation isn't about the victim. It's about the man who's suspected of domestic violence and his kind of story and his kind of scenario behind it, told through someone else. And so you're going to get all the details. Like I said, this is just a random call. Dad with the phone, that's what we do. And I'm going to play this for you. It's a little different, but it's a little different than what I normally would talk about or go down. But like I said, I'm willing to talk to anybody, allow them share their story, and go from there. So the call's about a 40-minute call. Stick around or don't stick around. It's out there now forever.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Michael.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. This is Michael, right?
Yeah, I've been
Okay, cool.
just been chatting with you on Facebook.
Yeah. I really appreciate you giving me a holler.
So what's going on?
Okay, well, so I've been in the military circuit for a little while, not necessarily participating as an employee, but I've had a couple partners who were veterans. And broad spanning, I'm just noticing a lot of loopholes as far as it goes within the way the VA operates in regards to the soldiers and the home situations, and the way that the judicial system handles the soldiers and the veterans, and the loopholes specifically being how easy the men are to take advantage of by the women, and how little safeguard and actual pressure is put on, the legal system to identify fraudulent claims and things like that. And, you know, firsthand directly, my partner currently, he is in the middle of his third bout with his ex-wife in regards to domestic violence charges. And, besides the way that the judicial system works in terms of actually identifying who is guilty, if a woman is claiming domestic violence and she goes up there, she can manipulate the entire court system, whether it's the judge or the jury, just by, turning the waterworks on. And there doesn't have to be any, legitimate, verifiable proof or evidence to her claims. They just kind of roll with it. And, I understand that when it comes to the mental and physical issues that come from the work that the military does, that, domestic violence cases really do happen, and they're not, particularly safe from. But on the flip side, the way that the standards are, especially Colorado being a women's rights state, as soon as you get those charges, there's not a lot of anything to protect, especially the veterans, and when it comes to somebody who has, in their previous experience before they get out of the military or whatever, high security clearances, if that person, makes lies on stand, say, about the domestic violence, the veteran saying, I didn't do it, and he's lying, then it's found out that he's lying, then all of his previous work that he had done with his security clearances is opened up. And so then a lot of times, especially in my partner's case, the claims are unjustified because the only thing that he wants in his whole entire life is to be honorable and be seen as honorable. And, the court systems really don't afford that. And,
so is this something, so he's going through another domestic, so you said he had 3 cases or 3 incidences with his ex-wife?
That's correct. Yeah. So, we went through this last court date, and his attorneys got switched midway through the case, first of all. And then when his second attorney came in, he wasn't even barred until 2 months after he got put on the case. And then outside of that, there was a lot of evidence that he had submitted to his attorney to prove his innocence. And his attorney did not, essentially pretty much blew us off for 3 months prior to the trial hearing, and denied our pleas for making sure that he had the evidence and timelines as they happened appropriately prepared.
So you guys, it's just is it a public defender or somebody you guys are paying?
It's a public defender.
Yeah.
But the fact that the public defenders are even allowed to legally be like, okay, I'm taking over your case, and then there's no oversight, there's no verification. We literally tried to get a contact with them for months and months, at least 2 months prior to the trial date. And, we messaged him a week prior to, we thought that the trial date was on the 8th because that's what we had remembered. And we messaged his attorney and tried to call him and make contact with him, and he didn't get back to us. And so we showed up on the 8th. Everybody in the courtroom was confused, like, hey, there's no court date today. What are you doing here? His attorney said that he'd call us that night and said that his normal procedure is to contact us a week prior. So he didn't contact us then. We went through trial last week. He said that he would give us a call and wanted to meet with us this last weekend before his next trial hearing. And, he didn't give us information. He's like, okay, well, I really recommend that you don't testify and that you don't do this and you don't do this. But he didn't give us the information that if we didn't testify, that no other evidence or no testimony would be provided if we made an appeal. So I'm kind of looking at all of these different things between the VA and the legal system here. And separately, but they're kind of together because, for instance, his ex-wife, the first time that she made these claims, she made an appeal to the VA, and she ended up getting $60,000 worth of benefits, and then moved back in with him, and he was not aware that it's fraudulent and they're supposed to remain separated. So she kept taking those monthly installments while she was living with him, and now she's, essentially set him up. She sent him an email flat out that said, "Give me $20,000 and I'll leave you alone." And his attorney really kind of screwed us over, and so it's like it's really deep and there's a lot to it, but that's kind of like the surface grime I can scrape off in a quick without.
So what are your what are your motives with telling the story, and what do you want to see happen?
Well, I mean, first of all, the way that it's happening in regards to the way that the claims are made here, there was no verifiable proof. There was no anything. Even when it came down to the photos that came up in court, there was no official bruising, and there's no dated photos. There's no nothing. And so, realistically, there's a billion different ways that everything could have come down. So really what I'm looking for is to kind of get some information out there. And, I know that, for instance, like Eddie Gallagher, the only reason that he ended up coming through and showing out and being proved innocent was because his wife had, kind of picked up the slack. And like I said, it's really, there's a lot more finer details that I'd have to maybe a face-to-face type of thing. But this is the surface grade, as I said, kind of just explaining some things to you. So, I mean, educating the public for one, I kind of blown a hole in this. The fact that there's multiple different operating legal systems in the United States, that there's multiple different constitutions that, the courts are operating off of, that there's two major operating judicial systems happening in the United States. And, I'm really appalled, actually, about the way that the structure is being set up, and there's so much redirection happening that I'm just, I'm really offended. And, I guess you could call me a patriot, maybe even possibly a constitutional patriot. I'm not a crazy person, but, I do see a lot of what's happening in the country as being a disservice to what our country is supposed to be, and that there's a lot of loopholes that are being exploited, and I know that my partner's situation is not unique in the sense of false claims or manipulation of the system for the woman to get what she wants. And the military already has a tendency to attract a certain type of person as far as it goes, if you know what I mean, when it comes to the people who are in the military, and then the people who gravitate to those military members because of available benefits, whether it's, the school benefits or the financial benefits that it comes from being married, or the health benefits or whatever. And so, it's kind of.
I got you. I'm understanding. I understand the situation that your partner's in, because I have friends that have just come out of a domestic deal where the woman just falsely accused him and stuff. But
yeah, absolutely. And it's really, it's disgusting. And the fact that, when you go in there, I've got a lot of, obviously I'm kind of in the military community, and, I've got a bunch of other peers, I suppose, and, they've got past prior charges, and, his ex-wife wasn't even the one who pushed the case. The defense attorneys and the people of Colorado, quote unquote, stuck their nose where it doesn't belong. And, this wouldn't have happened, but literally, essentially, it's borderline ruining his life. And on this particular case, he's had, I'd say about 40 to 60% of his stomach and intestines removed because of his military service. And so, when he was arrested for the DB case, even though the police officers didn't find any official evidence or anything, when he was arrested, he was in there for 5 days. The fourth day, they put him in a cell, and they completely lost him. They had no idea where he was. And then on day 5, he ended up in the emergency room because of his health issues. You know, so aside from the legal system and then aside from the available abuses by women towards the veterans, the judicial system looks at them as, you know, all of their prior training. Well, if you do get charged, then that's, you know, those charges with a deadly weapon because of their training, which is, unethical. So, and besides that, you know, there's the concept that there's really not, like, they just kind of just like in the courtroom, it's just like, oh, well, we'll just kind of just scuff it off and it doesn't really matter. But really, that's somebody's life, and he ended up in the emergency room. So, you know, the second part of that is the fact that there's so little congruency with the medical system and how the jails, you know, you're on these, you know, Schedule 1 drugs because you have to be for your mental health, and then you go to jail. You know, there's not enough, you know, the rights of the people to be taken care of while they're there are being completely disregarded.
No, I understand. I understand and it's his case here out of El Paso County.
No, it's in Arapahoe.
Okay.
But you know, if he ends up going to jail for a period of time, it's literally, you know, it's like, in my mind, it's premeditated murder and it's gross negligence, because the bottom line is knowing that he has these meds and knowing that he has these health issues, and they're still going to put him in that position. And the courts do it all the time, whether it's, you know, methadone prescriptions or whether it's, you know, psych meds or other psychiatric drugs. It doesn't matter. They still put them in there without any regard to long-term health, and people die in there all the time. So.
And that's what you're concerned about that. And what has he actually gone through a trial, or has he just been to like pre-trial and motion hearings and stuff?
No, we just had a trial Thursday and Friday of last week, and like I said, his attorney said, you know, I recommend that you not testify and this, that, and the other. But he didn't, when he made that recommendation to us that morning, he did not inform us that by denying his right to, because he wanted to testify. And then his attorney told him that he didn't want him to testify, and so Emil trusted him, but we didn't get the information at that same time stating that if you don't testify, A, you don't get an opportunity to testify in an appeal, and B, there's no other evidence permitted in a, you know. And then so then the defense attorneys, you know, they specifically went through and covered their ass by preventing certain documentation from being part of the case, even though it was submitted, because it was based off of mental health and this, that, and the other. Well, his ex-wife literally, like, part of the reason for the charges was, you know, the bathroom door was broken down. But 30 days prior to this, the reason for this whole thing happened, the EMTs and the emergency personnel had to actually go and break down her bathroom door because he had asked for a divorce from her and she tried to kill herself. And he had to give authorization for the EMTs to break down the door. And when they finally got into the bathroom, she was unconscious on the floor. And the defense attorneys for her, the people of Colorado, they strategically made it so none of that information was allowed to be brought into the case. None of the information from the previous cases were allowed to be brought in, only this case, because they wanted to crucify him. And the bottom line is, though, that there were multiple other cases that she had put him in where he was found innocent, and they specifically wanted those removed from the record so that he wasn't found innocent, and so that the jury and everybody evaluating the case had no idea that this isn't the first time that she's been trying to extort him.
And so did they find him guilty then?
Yes, they did. And the photos that they found him guilty on weren't even, they really honestly weren't even. So one evening in one situation ended up being literally 7 charges. 2 counts of, harassment and domestic violence. Those are each separate charges for, withholding the telephone, and then 2 charges, one for domestic violence strangulation and one for harassment strangulation. So I'm just like, I'm sitting here looking, and like that strangulation, whatever, like there was no official bruises, there wasn't anything. And in my humble opinion, I would personally think that when it came down to it, I don't understand how you can just rack up these charges. So he only got convicted of the misdemeanor charges, the unlawful sexual contact he was found innocent of. But the bottom line is, though, that, the way that these attorneys are doing it, they really have, like, an entire complete disregard for human life and, everything that goes in with that, even to the point of them, they're probably going to a judge petition or try to get an ankle monitor if we can't appeal. But, even when it comes to the appeal, his attorney effectively prevented every primary piece of evidence from even being viable. And so now it's to a point where, like, this woman's done this multiple times. Our case is not unique or individual in that sense of women playing their cards against the men to get the most out of their benefits. And, so it makes everything. I mean, he spent 17 years in the military, and, he got out because of the stuff that she pulled on him. When she initially did this in 2012, she went and she made a claim that her husband, which is my partner now, was effectively abusing her that morning, when he had proof because he was at a training thing with his team under his superiors, and he had been gone since 4 o'clock in the morning. So it was impossible for her claims to be legitimized. And so they were like, holy shit, what is going on? You've been here all day. There's no way you could have been at home beating her an hour ago when you were just running laps. Like, we know what's going on. And so they ushered it. They just pushed him out of the military. But, he's got all these DV charges. And, I've been with him for 9 months now. And he does have some psychological issues and this, that, and the other, and he had some sensitivity to drugs. But even as bad as it's gotten with his psychosis or whatever, because he was admitted into inpatient. He had a bout of psychosis because of some bad meds. But even as bad as he got, I've never seen him be the type to, put hands on me or chase me around. I would never think it even possibly conceivable that he would tackle me, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all have dark sides, but I'm going to tell you right now that I have seen this man at the worst of his worst. And he's never even exhibited a small portion of that behavior. And so I'm appalled that our legal system is effectively not serving us. And all of these people who are employed they're public servants. Technically, the judge and the police officers that arrested him and all those are public servants. Those are my employees. Those are your employees. And they're not working for their employers in even the foggiest little bit.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I can see how it can be frustrating and upsetting. I'm not sure. Like, I just don't. I don't know. I mean, legally or not legally, but I don't even know what you could do if this, except through an appeals process with your court. If it's just to get the news out or to get the idea of this is happening, I could definitely kind of help with that. I just don't know where or what you could do, because I know it's happening not only to military people, it's happening to a lot of men all over the state. And so I understand.
In general.
Yeah, no, I understand it.
And so I'm not even really going per se so much as, to say like, well, I just want to take it to the public and have the public have it, be evaluated by the public. I want to use this as a prime example to educate people and maybe institute some change, because this is, the fact that they're sending, like, just for instance, that woman, I don't know if you heard a couple months ago, over in Arapahoe County Jail Court, there was a woman who was pregnant and incarcerated, and she went into labor and she called for help, and the guards knew she was in labor, and nobody helped her, nobody provided anything to her, nobody even spoke to her until she delivered the baby. And after she delivered the baby, somebody was watching in the window the whole time. She delivered her baby in the jail cell, and then once the baby was delivered, the staff comes in, and then they start addressing the issue and the situation. But that should never happen. The fact that people are being put into jail without consideration of their mental or physical health with their medications and their heart detoxing, and that causes other psychological and physiological conflicts and problems. Like, this is inappropriate. This is incredibly inappropriate, and this is a massive, massive, massive abuse of power that's happening. And even if the end result isn't so much to get his case overturned, I'd like to use all of the evidence and all of the information that we have available to us, because I don't suspect that they're going to, if he goes in there, he's going to die flat out because of his health issues. And they don't, they're not going to administer his medications. He has sleep apnea. Part of the reason he takes his mental health meds is for his sleep apnea, but also because he doesn't get enough blood to his brain. So if he's cut off of that, not only is he going to end up with seizures and other issues, which he ended up with a seizure disorder this summer, I'm thinking in part because of the way that he was detoxed off of those meds in December. And, it's an abuse of power, it's gross negligence, and, it's constitutionally violation. Like, all of it this is traitor behavior and activity, period.
Yeah. When you say he was convicted of the misdemeanor charges, do they have mandatory jail time?
I think, I'm not entirely sure. They wanted his ex-wife to be present for the sentencing, so the sentencing is actually on the 24th. So we don't know where any of that stands, and because his attorney's plain up simply, like, he gets paid to take his courses, so if his job is to tend to this person as legal representative, then he needs to be doing his job, and we shouldn't sit there and have to hound him for 2 months to hear nothing. And he shouldn't make a commitment that he's gonna do something and just not do it. If I had a job at Safeway or at the liquor store, and I said that I'd unload all of the product and I put it on the shelves, and I just didn't do that, I'd get fired. But the defense attorneys seem to not have to be held accountable to any sort or standard of interaction or operating procedure. And, it is just a shit show, pardon my French, but it really is. And it, like I said, on a personal level, because I'm really patriotic. I was, I really appreciate what everything has, even if we're liberals and we say war isn't necessary, it doesn't change the fact that that man was employed by his employers and did the job that he was paid to do. And there shouldn't be, just because you don't like it doesn't mean that, he's entitled to anything less. He did his job. He should get his return, and there should be things, it's just a gross negligence, and it's an abuse of power that's happening, and it's getting kind of out of control like a wildfire. And it's really frightening to me, because if we don't kind of, at least inform people of what is actually happening, and I don't know if you're familiar with the maritime law.
What about it?
So, in the courtrooms, there's gold fringe flag, and maritime law is a wartime law book that comes in under wartime, but there's no reason that our domestic courthouses should be operating under maritime law. So it doesn't matter what you're researching in terms of the law books, there's two different legal operating systems happening on our soil. And in my opinion, civilians shouldn't be in a wartime courtroom. But that, anytime you go to a courtroom, you have any type of dealing with anybody in a courtroom, you're working with and dealing with and fighting against maritime law, which is in itself a massive violation of the rights that the people on this soil have, aside from all of the other aspects. And like I said, it's a multiple pronged complaint that I have. It's not just, you know, the way that it's set up for domestic violence. It's not just the way that the vets are being treated. It's not just this. It's all of these things, and they're all interrelated and they're connected. And it is absolutely appalling. And as opposed to saying, "Well, I hate America and this shit's fucked up," and just get out, we need to change it, because that's what our job is. Those people are hired and they are employed because they are public servants, and they're not serving the public.
I hear you. I want you to know that. I hear you. I'm willing to share your story and get information out there if that's what you want to do.
I would very much appreciate that. And, I'm kind of at a point now where I'm looking at, the more the merrier. So if I could have possibly even other people who might be interested, the further and the wider that we can spread this, the more informed we can make the general public, and the more likely we are to getting some clear transparency and accountability made. But until because most people don't even know about maritime law operating, and so that in itself is a problem, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm listening to you. I understand. So there's a couple of options. Do you want me to kind of lay those out for you?
Sure.
So I have recorded our conversation today, and
okay.
And so I have everything that you've kind of told me, and then
right.
And normally, even though you didn't know you were being recorded, I just feel like with these things, it's easier for me to listen to that. I can share that with the people, and you haven't really given anything specific names or except for what county it was in.
Right.
That to share that recording, and then maybe have you come on a live show where people can interact via chat and stuff to talk about it. To kind of cover it after the fact. So share your story, and then have you come on a later time to talk more about it and to hear more about it after the sentencing issue or after the sentencing hearing. That's one option. The other option is to wait entirely until after sentencing and then just have you come on. I don't know if you've said anything in the recording that you don't want shared, but I think you were pretty honest. I think you explained yourself, and people will listen to that knowing that you didn't know you were being recorded and you were just telling the story. So that's kind of the options I'm looking at. So, to share your story, and I get viewership all over the world, and especially here in Colorado, and then maybe try to push it on to some other people, not push it on, but try to, open the door for some other people for you to share that story, whether that be a news media organization or another online kind of journalist stuff. So
yeah, I'm totally okay with that. And in the state of Colorado, I'm aware that it's not, it's legal to record a conversation in various facets without the other person knowing. So I'm totally okay with that. And I'm actually I like that you did that. So,
yeah, I do it whether, and I was going to let you know I was recording before the conversation was over, but I do it just so that you are open and honest, and there's not any kind of you're not shielding yourself. But yeah, again, we are a one-party state, and, so it's not a legality thing. But out of respect, if you were to tell me no, I don't want this out there, I wouldn't put it out there. So
no. See, the problem is part of the reason we're so mad is because he wanted to get up there and testify say a whole bunch of stuff, and flat out, his ex-wife lied on the stand. One of the biggest things to him not getting the unlawful sexual contact was the basis that she said that they didn't have sexual intercourse, which was a lie, because she had invited him down the night prior to this event. And the kicker here is that a phone call was made to the Arapahoe County police station 30 minutes prior to the alleged beginning of the whole event or scenario. And so she had already made a call to the police station prior to the emergency situation arriving. And, you know, she lied that there was no sexual contact made and this, that, the other. Well, he lived 2 hours away. Why would he just drive 2 hours just to harass this woman? He wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? That's illogical. And they had already gone through a divorce, and they got remarried because he just wanted, you know, he wanted to be a good husband. He wanted to take care of his wife and, you know, take his lickings and be a good husband. And she did this to him. And so, you know, it's like the reason he originally wanted to go to trial to testify was so that he could get 100% complete, you know, transparency and get his story out there. And his attorney manipulated the situation so that he couldn't even do that. And now with the appeal process, there is no getting it out there. And so, you know, his whole entire drive the whole time was like, you know, if she crucifies me and this, that, and the other, then, you know, at least we can use this story to make a difference and change what's happening and stop the injustices from continuing, because it's unethical.
I hear you. I hear you. So, well, let's do this. Let's move forward. I'll play this recording, and we'll kind of go from there, and then let's keep in touch because I'd like to hear what happens during sentencing, and
Okay.
and then and maybe even it's something where I talk to, you know, if he'll talk to me, then I'll talk to your partner. After this thing kind of, because it's gonna, I mean, if this is his first time you know, facing these charges, although there is
It's not.
okay,
That's the problem.
yeah, so so he has other domestic violence charges already.
Yes, and his first wife actually did this to him also. She, you know, claimed domestic abuse and did all this and got away with it, and then she actually ended up taking her kids to Ireland. And the way that Colorado's set up in terms of child support is, you know, Colorado has revoked his license and is holding him liable for child support when she's over in Ireland getting child support from the Ireland government. And you know, if she was getting child support from her ex-husband, which was my partner, then she wouldn't be eligible for that money from Ireland. And so she's, you know, there's you know, there are other things going on in regards to that to kind of get some exposure. But this is, you know, there's multiples of these, and that's what I was saying earlier when it comes to the military men attract a certain type of person as a partner because they're in the military, and there's nothing to protect them from essentially predatory action from women against them, if that makes sense. So
no, it makes sense. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let's go down that road. Let's just keep in touch. Thanks for your time today, explaining, you know, and, you know, reaching out. Or I saw your post, and through some mutual friends, people tagged me, so that's how I kind of found out about, you know, you reaching out, looking for someone to talk about it. So, yeah, let's see where things happen on the. You said his sentencing's on the 24th, so next week or this week.
Yep, on Friday. That's correct. So we have another trial.
Chicka. I don't want to expose them too much, and so I needed to cut that right there before she got details about all of the what's happening in the next couple of days. So that's why I cut that. So what you're listening to is, first of all, this isn't someone who contacted me through Dad with a phone. I want to make that clear. So she doesn't know, when I talk to her, she doesn't know nothing about Dad with the phone. She didn't contact me through Facebook. She didn't contact me through YouTube or anything. What had happened is she put a post on her profile. Mutual friends of ours, like 6 or 7 mutual friends, tagged me in that post. And I simply said, well, what's going on? And then we started a dialogue. But I didn't know what the subject matter was. I didn't know what I was getting into when the messages on Facebook were very short. They were like military, some court stuff. And that's all I kind of knew going into this phone call this morning. Okay. So when I went into that phone call, zero information, zero knowledge of what was about to take place, what I was going to talk to her about, what she was going to talk to me about, who she was, all that stuff. And so I need to preface that because that was cold calling at its best, right? I mean, that was a straight cold call for me. She sent me her message, very brief little message on Facebook, but we had been tagged by mutual friends. And so that's how that conversation came about. Now, but I want to talk about, we went all over the place in that whole conversation, from mental health in jail, women and domestic violence stuff. She's worried for her man, PTSD, military DV issues, wrongfully convicted, women's control over men, repeat offender, public defender, paid attorney. The system is broken. Court system is shit show. What's a patriot? If you're a patriot, what's a patriot? What's a liberal? The system is broken, gross abuse of power, out of control like a wildfire. What the fuck is maritime law? Wartime law? Is this crazy, or I'm just Dad with a phone? She released this call to be listened to. That was important to go over there for the disclaimer. And she was at the trial. Is she a victim? Like, is she blind to the wall in front of her? There was a lot of questions asked about, hey, this is a repeat thing. Has he done this before? Has he been convicted of this before? Do men get convicted of domestic violence wrongfully? Absolutely. Is there a domestic violence problem in the military? Absolutely. So there was so much that happened in that phone conversation that I have to sit back and go, okay, what are some things that we can agree on when we're talking about this? Well, we can agree that there's domestic violence in the military. It's not even a pretend thing, right? It's not a pretend thing. Military wives know this. Military men know this. She even alludes to the fact that there are certain types of women who will marry and date military people, and those types of women. She alludes to this. I have to say she alludes to this. I don't allude to this. I'm simply kind of going over this call with you. And so there was a lot of craziness in that phone call. Can we agree on that? Some of the things I wanted to talk about was, hey, that court shit sounds real interesting to me. What's the difference between maritime law and wartime law? Why is it being used in our court system? Does it have to be used in our court system? You could tell she was all into the Constitution and the patriotic stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of people that are into that and love that. You guys know how I feel about that. Let's see. The system is broken. I ain't going to argue with that. Shit, Dad with the phone will tell you the system's broken. Women having problems with domestic violence. Domestic violence is an issue in our society, folks. Is it an issue in my household? Try not to be, but Me and Nikki we've been got domestic before. You know what I'm saying? At my reception, my wife threw a chair at my ass. So, like, marriage is fucking hard. Does domestic violence happen? Yes. Does it get blown out of proportion? Yes. Is there some victims of domestic violence? Yes. Are there women who have been trapped in domestic relationships for years? Yes. Are there men who have been wrongfully convicted? Yes. I have friends that live in my town that had to go through complete trials because their women accused them of either child molestation or rape or all kinds of stuff. All of my friends, the cases were dismissed. The women were made to be liars, trying to go after money, trying to go after kid rights, all these things. Does it happen? Yes. Do men get scared? Absolutely yes. We've talked about this when we've talked about murder cases. What would drive me to kill my wife? If she tried to take my kids away. Like, that's the truth, right? Murder would go through my heart. Murder would go through my mind if my wife tried to take my children. So I understand it. Like, that's why divorce, we don't even talk about it in my household. It's a bad word. If my kids ask me if we're getting a divorce, I might have to whip them. It's a bad word. It's don't even like, marriage is crazy hard. So don't get married. One, don't have kids together, because that shit ties you together whether you're married or not. People are crazy nowadays. This is why marriage has to work. Not for you, it's for your children. Because really, when it's all said and done, dirt's over, everything, fuck it all. Your children, that's all you got when you're dead. When the dirt hits your coffin, baby, what have you gained? And so, like, find someone you love, get married. Family is a good thing, bro. Women, men. So don't fucking hit people. Don't, if you're going to scream in front of witnesses, but don't call the cops on your neighbors fighting. Go over there and talk to them. Or don't call the cops on your neighbors over here or over here. I got a point around here. So, none of my neighbors think I'm pointing at them. But man, domestic violence is real though. But marriage is hard. Shit, y'all getting truth. Paid attorney, public defender. Listen. If you're innocent, sell a kidney. Sell a kidney to get the best attorney you can. If you don't listen to anything Dad with the Phone tells you, listen to this. If you are innocent, sell your freaking car, second mortgage your house. It's going to put you in all kinds of stress. Put your freaking mugshot on a t-shirt and sell it. But get the best attorney you can. Be on texting terms with your attorney. If I text my attorney and he don't text me back in an hour, shit, I'm calling my attorney. My attorney takes my phone call. Oh, I locked the door. I'm coming. Now you're just being annoying. She's just being annoying. See, marriage is hard. Marriage is hard. I told y'all, domestic. We got to get domestic up in this joint. What was I saying? I was ranting about something. Probably good thing she walked in right now. Get an attorney. That's what I was saying. Get an attorney that you can text, that takes your phone calls. Public defender versus paid attorney. I know it's stressful. Let me tell you something. I'll play social media games. I'll play media games. I'll puppet and play with the media. But when you go into a court of law, you need a quarterback. That's all I'm going to say. And do you want the freaking third string, fourth string, fifth string, unpaid quarterback? Or do you want Tom freaking Brady? You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is get a quarterback, because I don't even know what the hell maritime law is, right? and you can think you have a really strong case. You think you can have, they don't have any evidence. The public defender is going to tell you whatever it is that she can get paid the most or he can get paid the most for, but yet do the least amount of work. They got a lot of work on them. I don't know this public defender. I don't know them in generally, but it's this system. It's a broken system, and the public defender system is for sure broken. So as broken as the court system is, sell a kidney, do something, prostitute if you got to, but get an attorney, get the best attorney you can hire, one that comes with references, one that knows both sides. A lot of public defenders and a lot of private attorneys used to work in the DA's office, used to work in the prosecuting attorney's office. They used to work in the public defender's office. Man, you want to find an attorney though that knows how to deal with the DA, right? And so a lot of times they need to know all the little rules. There's so many rules when it comes, just like that maritime shit. That's what she's talking about, right? This woman has been through the court system with her husband or her man, her ex, whatever. I don't know the story. I don't know the scenario of their individual case, but I also hear a woman frustrated with the court system. And that, my friends, is not a new story. That is not a story that anybody doesn't already know who has actually worked through the court system, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether you've been a victim or you've been a suspect. It is simply a system that was written with feather and ink, and it has been woven into what it is today, and what it is today ain't what it was when it was written. Hashtag that. What else did she talk about? PTSD, man. If you haven't listened to the PTSD, or if you haven't listened to my podcast I did with Ryan Matthews, if you know a military person who's dealing with shit, they need to go listen to the podcast with Ryan Matthews, because that man, I can tell, I'll just give you a brief. Basically, his PTSD did ruin his life. Took him all the way to the jailhouse, baby. Took him straight to the jailhouse. He lost everything. And now you can see how he's come back, and he broke that cycle, wasn't going to be in that cycle. And that, my friends, is something to be listened to. And so I would tell the caller, you need to go listen to my podcast with Ryan Matthews, because it could change, because it's going to say, hey, there's still hope out there, even if you have to go to jail. So even if your man has to go to jail, don't give up hope. Because the guy who I know went through freaking widowmaker heart attack, lost his business, went to jail, was literally in hiding for 5 years and came out of that. So don't give up if your man has to go to jail. That was a freebie. All right. So hey, I don't know exactly. The purpose, I don't know why. I don't necessarily know the why behind her phone call. I don't know the why behind what she believes. I don't know if it's true or if it's not true. If this guy's a repeat offender, or if he's just been dealt a bad deal of cards, right? A bad deck of cards. So I don't know if it's even for us to judge. You may find yourself in that same situation. Chances are some of you have been on both sides of the stick. In other words, you may have been a victim of domestic violence, real domestic violence, or you may have been someone who's been wrongfully accused of domestic violence, or wrongfully accused of something else by a spouse or someone. So, there's two sides to every coin. There's two stories to every observation. It sometimes it's not as simple as it's their side, and the truth. Sometimes the truth is relative. It is a relative to what your truth is for you. What may be true for you isn't true for me, or something like that. It's weird. It's that weird, because we could both be in the same situation, see the same exact thing, and still see something totally different than each other. And we know this. We already know all these things. And so when we look at court situations, y'all hear that coffee tea going off? One of my kids. The dogs are freaking out right now. Somebody was going to come running. Like the dog's freaking out or the kids are freaking out. It's like that high whistle at your house. Y'all like that?
Somebody was going to get that, like Ella.
Oh, I've seen victims who have had their face. No, absolutely. The victim, the side of the victim is there's a lot of victims out there. And that's the thing when you start to address, especially in the military. Why is the people say it's not me. It's not me. First of all, statistically, there's a lot of domestic violence in the military. With it's something to be said when you take an 18-year-old kid and you put them in combat. The frontal cortex, their frontal part of their brain isn't even completely developed, and you put them into situations where kicking in doors and turning humans into just blurred pieces of training, brown people or certain colors or certain this, and just literally taking a kid that's 18 years old and shaping their brain and then bringing them back home and sticking them in a domestic situation. It is a recipe. It is a recipe for domestic violence. In my opinion, I am no doctor, but I do know this: frontal cortex not developed till a man's 25. You put them into high stress situations in the military, bring them back into a domestic situation with a family, a woman. Not a good recipe. Seen it. Everybody's seen it. Everyone has seen it. It's so prevalent that we throw our hands up. That's what she's doing. Like, a part of the phone call today was she's just throwing her hands up saying, I don't know what to do, but I just want to tell this story. I just want to say this. Whether good, bad, or indifferent, we know it's true. Domestic violence in the military, we just throw our hands up. What are we going to do? How do you deal with it? Is it a question we can even talk about? Y'all are talking in right here. I don't even have to I could just turn off my camera, walk away. Just turn wet dogs loose in your house.
And she just spilled my coffee everywhere. On top of
Oh,
me trying to clean her up. What a pain in the ass. Why do I like this dog? Why do I even like her?
Muffins just got a bath and just ran through the house soaking wet.
And then spilled a cup of coffee on
Ooh.
the floor.
Hey, this crazy phone call. Story's not over. She's willing to talk to us some more. And we find out how the story ends. Good, bad, or indifferent. This is real people's lives. That was a real phone call. For real. So Fun. Y'all enjoy it. Thanks for watching Dad with a Phone. You guys know where to find me.